You might wonder how modern 3D graphics achieve such stunning realism. Metals are shining, rough textures of wood. The answer is in physically based rendering, or PBR. I'm going to show you basics without any math or anything difficult really. Actually, we are going to experience it by yourself from the practical perspective. You can download Godot, you can work with me, and you will be able to do this absolutely by yourself and for free. What is PBR in general? It's a technique in computer graphics which simulates how light interacts with real-world materials. In PBR, we are really trying to follow laws of physics as precise as we can. There are two main principles: energy conservation and microfacet theory. Energy conservation assures that there are not going to be more energy on the output than it was in the input. And considering your real life, that sounds very logical, but it is not so easy to achieve in computer environment. The microfacet theory tells you that the rays of a light are distributed in quite uneven manner based on the material. So we have our 3D model. I talked about 3D graphics in the previous video. Now we are ready to apply some texture. Historically, or the easiest thing what you can do is to apply one color for every single triangle. And this is of course not so difficult to do, but the problem is that you have a hard time to achieve a certain material look. If I would tell you without any other knowledge, make me a red cube which looks like made of wood, or make me a red cube which looks like made of metal, you might have a hard time doing it. What we work with nowadays is plenty of textures which are going to be applied in the same time. Artists use tools for that, like Substance Painter or Quixel Mixer, to create something what we call texture maps. These are just a bunch of textures where every single texture has a certain purpose. From the real-world perspective, the light is always here. The light bounces in a certain way and do its things. What differs is material, and the material is defined by its properties. There are several ways how we can specify the properties of certain material, but really the super common nowadays, thanks to PBR, is to have several textures. The first texture is called albedo, or base color map. This is just basic color of the material without any lighting effects, without half of the object being in a shadow and half being lit. Second is normal map. This simulates surface details like scratches and bumps without increasing the polygon count. We talked in the previous video that everything is composed of triangles. Obviously, the more triangles you have, the more difficult is the scene to render. If it's not absolutely necessary, it's not a bad idea to keep the number of triangles low. But you still want to have some details, right? Normal map is the way how to achieve it. Third is a roughness map. Roughness map controls how smooth or rough the surface appears. Low value creates shiny surface, while a high value results in matte finish. Fourth one could be metallic map. This is a map which determines whether the material behaves like metal or not. Because metals behave in a certain way in real life, and you really want to capture these features if you want to have metals in your game. Fifth one can be ambient occlusion map, which adds depth by simulating areas where light is naturally blocked, such as crevices and corners. And we can have more, such as height maps, emissive maps, opacity maps, but we're gonna stop here for this video. Let's try it by ourselves. Run Godot, create new project. If you don't know where to find Godot or how to set the new project, you can check one of my previous videos. Download two texture packs which are in the description: Peeling Painted Metal and Thick Mortar Stonework, and just drag and drop them to your project. Now let's create new 3D scene and add a plane. So child node, mesh instance 3D. I will rename it to floor. Choose mesh, new plane mesh, and if you click here, you can see that it's 2 × 2 meters. Now choose material, new standard material 3D. You can even see in the hint that a PBR material to be used on 3D objects. That's exactly what we want. I can see list of all maps we talk about, actually more of them and more related things. Let's start with albedo. Open Peeling Painted Metal and choose Metal Albedo. Drag and drop to texture. Wow. It doesn't look like much, but well, here we are. What I'm going to do now here is to add light. So child node, directional light 3D. This effectively works as a sun. I can choose any direction I want, which will be very helpful to see better how the materials behave. So let me move it up. That Alright, so here it is. As you can see, the plane looks very flat, so let's add some detail. Choose a floor, again a material, and let's apply normal map. Enable, and drag and drop this file, metal normal OGL. If I increase the scale or decrease the scale, let me show you with a light. I used transform component to move it a little bit higher so it's not in the way. If I rotate, you can see that the surface looks way more detailed than it should be for just two triangles for my plane. I put the sound a little bit down, like here. Now you can see that we have some visual bumps, but the reflections are a little bit weird. There are places with paint, there are places without paint as a metal, so to make the reflection looks more natural, let's apply another map. First, metallic, same system. Metallic, texture, drag and drop. Metal part are a little bit darker, because they reflect different amount of light. I can also tune this metallic component, which is like a multiplier for the final value. Let's apply roughness. If the rays are going to be dispersed to every direction or if it's going to be more like a mirror. And this looks pretty cool. If I put the roughness down, you can see the impact I have on the material, on my surface. What happened here is that the painted parts behave differently than the metallic parts. Let me try one more plane. So node, add child node, mesh instance. I am going to rename this to wall. I want new plane mesh. Transform, rotate this for 90 degrees and move it a little bit. Okay. I'm going to choose a plane and new standard material 3D. Let's work with the thick mortar stonework. Albedo. Boom. Let me change the direction of the sun to lit the wall directly. And now again, you can see it's very flat, right? It's just the picture on a square. It is nothing. Let's apply normal map. Situation changed dramatically. I'm going to move my light to show you. Can you see? There is the same amount of geometry as before. Just because we are altering the way how the rays are reflected, we are able to create this illusion of depth. Let me fill up the rest of the maps. Metallic is not necessary here, so roughness. By the way, metallic is not necessary because I do not have any metal parts here. I don't need to specify this reflectivity dedicated to it. And what I'm going to do different here is to apply ambient occlusion. I could do it also for the previous, I just didn't. This is this AO. Let me put it here. What is the purpose of this? Let me show you from the close distance. Ambient occlusion gives you details to the crevices, to the places where it should be shadow like naturally. Let me tune the light a little bit. I'm going to play with my light effect. Can you see how the places between the stones are now a little bit lighter, but now, like here, they are getting darker. It adds more depth to your scene. Let me set the sun shining directly to the wall. So I need to do this, and where is it? It's here, right? Okay. A little bit on the side, like that. Now I can play with the numbers which are associated with the material, such as tune the roughness. You can see what's happening in the upper right corner. I can do normal map if I want to. In this case, you don't want to. I can touch the ambient occlusion until I'm happy with the level of depth. And that's it. As you can see, it was very fast. It was very easy. Don't hesitate to experiment by yourself. You can download any texture pack you want, try it on any surface, and have fun. It is also worth to mention you can have two different workflows. You can have metallic, the one I just described, or specular workflow. The difference is in technicalities. It will look the same in the end. Artists can just choose which workflow fits better his or her demands. If you want to experiment with the more advanced example, you can check this one from Sketchfab, link in the description. I will move my camera here, choose Model Inspector. You can choose no post-processing, which disable depth of field, some bloom, other effects. What is pretty cool, you can choose the maps in a scene. So, base color. You can see that everything is very dark. This represents pure colors. Metalness. Black means non-metallic, white means metallic. You can see some shades of gray. That means that this part of metal can be affected by rust, for instance. Roughness specify how light is going to be dispersed. 0, which is blackish, is mirror, and 1 is just very rough surface. Normal maps. Here I'm able to add details to my scene without additional geometry. Normals are vectors which are perpendicular to the surface, so by tuning them using a texture, I can force light to bounce in different angle. And here is my ambient occlusion map. You can see everything is white, just the crevices, edges, and generally darker places are actually darkened even more using this texture. In case you are interested, you can turn on wireframe to see triangles in the scene. Why we even want to use PBR is that it simply became a standard. It is a very convenient way to set the parameters of your scene, of your materials. For modeling, you have Blender or Maya. For texturing, you can use Substance Painter. When you have all these, you need renderer. It might be Unity, it might be Unreal or whatever. And the great thing is that the renderer works the same. The light computation really doesn't change. So you have one fixed thing, that's your renderer. And if you need to tune the materials or make the scene look a certain way, it is just on art side. In game dev, we frequently do placeholders. You don't have final graphics, final assets when you are creating your game. If artists want to make certain place metallic, he or she knows how to do it. The engine is the same. The model is the same. Just the material, one of the textures will be different, or more textures will be different than for the wooden material. And that's really what it's about. In the future, I'm going to have more in-depth video about the mathematics side of the things, because the math here is pretty interesting. That will be all for today. I hope you learned something, I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more in the future, don't forget to subscribe, and see you next time.